Was Trump's assassination prophesied a few months ago? I will get to my thoughts on that at the end of this episode. First, I'm going to give you all of the information that I have right now about what went down over the weekend, the responses to it, my take on all the different angles of this. Wow, we have got so much to cover. And of course, we are going to finish with some biblical encouragement for you guys. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend despite the crazy events that occurred. I hope you got some restful time with your family because this is going to be an absolutely crazy week, politics-wise, news-wise. Obviously, we are going to talk about the shooting today, and at the end, we are going to focus specifically on the prophecies that have allegedly been put forth about Donald Trump, and I will do my best to give you a biblical response to all of this and give you as much encouragement as possible after we get through everything that happened, the different theories, and I will try to provide you with as much detailed, up-to-date information as possible, but also Trump is going to announce his VP pick today. My guess, based on the knowledge that I have, based on some information that I've seen, is that it is going to be J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, also the author of Hillbilly Elegy. That was a very famous book, still is, and we've had him on the show in the past. I don't know. I don't have insider knowledge on that. That is my guess. Of course, we will be covering that, talking about it more tomorrow. Also, the big news that the case against Trump regarding classified information, confidential documents, has been dropped by Judge Cannon. She dismissed the Trump classified documents case, citing unlawful appointment of special counsel Jack Smith. That was arguably the strongest case against Trump. And so, wow. There is so much that's going on. We don't even have time to get into those two things right now. We don't have time today to get into the changes to the RNC platform that we wanted to cover last Thursday, but because of covering Project 2025, we didn't have time for it. Today, we really just have the capacity to focus on this attempted assassination of President Trump. Now, if for whatever reason you were under a rock this weekend, which respect to that. If that's what you do on the weekends, you unplug, you don't watch the news, you're not scrolling on social media, and you have no idea what I am talking about right now, I'm about to shock you that President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania was shot. A bullet seems to have grazed his ear. He was shot by someone who seems to have been attempting to assassinate him, and unfortunately a rally attendee died. So let me back up. Let me tell you everything that happened. And even if you do know that that occurred, there are going to be details that we reveal today that you probably didn't already know. There's so much information online. We take our responsibility very seriously to give you the most accurate info possible. So former President Trump was speaking at an outdoor rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday evening when an apparent assassination attempt was made on his life. As Trump was speaking, the sound of gunfire could be heard just after 6:10 p.m. Trump grabbed his right ear and then dropped to the ground as the crowd began screaming, and Secret Service agents surrounded him for protection, got him off stage. I was not watching this live as it was happening. Some of you were. You messaged me that you were watching this event live online. I can't even imagine what your reaction was. I was scrolling on Twitter. My husband interrupted me as I was watching some nonsensical video, and he was like, you got to stop what you're doing and you got to look at this because Trump was just shot. It took me a second to even wrap my mind around what in the world he was saying. What do you mean Trump was just shot? I mean, my first thought was that he died. When you hear that someone was shot, you think he died. And then I went on X, I saw the video, and I saw the reaction. Some people were saying that Trump had grabbed his neck, which obviously would have probably been fatal. I saw the video of him grabbing his ear, dropping to the ground, and I thought, okay, it doesn't look like he died. It doesn't look like a bullet actually entered his skull or entered an artery. I wasn't sure what happened, but then of course we got more information as the day went on. So just a summary before we even play you the video of what happened. The shooter was believed to have crawled onto the roof of a manufacturing plant outside the security perimeter, about 150 yards or 450 feet from President Trump. We'll get into that because obviously there are a lot of questions about how how he was able to climb onto that roof and aim at President Trump. Thousands had attended the campaign rally in Butler. I mean, it was just a massive crowd. He was actually rumored to make the announcement about his vice presidential pick there ahead of the Republican National Convention, which kicks off today in Milwaukee. So, oh my gosh, again, just so much going on. Let me go ahead and play you the clip of the shots firing. Here's shot 2.
Take a look at what happened.
So you can see there, he's trying to assess what's going on. He kind of grabs his ear. Everyone behind him kind of drops and is freaking out. There's a lot of screaming going on. But then after Secret Service surrounds him, kind of drops him to the ground, you also hear a voice saying, "What are we doing? Where are we going? Where are we going?" That sounds like one of the female Secret Service agents. I don't know if that's normal. That seems to be like a strange reaction to what is going on, a strange thing to say in the moment, but seems like a lot of pandemonium. They try to get him off stage, but rather than just moving off stage, which is what I think the vast majority of people in that situation would have done, Trump stops and he does this. Here's shot 3. I mean, just a truly unbelievable moment. I know he's just being sincere there, but the man's instincts when it comes to imagery are just second to none. I mean, that speaks so much, I think, to who he is. And you can try to minimize that, but it actually takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to, in that moment, after you know, he probably had deduced at that point that someone had shot at him. I think most people, out of fear for their lives, would have just allowed the Secret Service to be a barrier to protect him from getting murdered. I mean, he doesn't know that this guy was just shot down. He doesn't know if the threat is still out there. But still, for the sake of the people who had attended the crowd, he tells Secret Service to stop. And he raises his head and raises his fist over his barrier of protection in order to say, fight, fight, fight. Of course, as we'll talk about in a minute, the media completely ran with that, but it was obvious to me that he was saying, look, they're trying to take us down. They're trying to stop us. They're trying to do everything that they possibly can to keep our movement from growing, whatever he's trying to communicate to keep us from winning in November, but we've got to keep standing up. We've got to keep staying strong. It did not even cross my mind for a second that he meant some kind of physical violence, and the audacity of anyone to criticize him for saying that seconds after he was just shot. It's mind-numbing. It's incredible. And I tweeted at the time, I said, if we thought the mugshot was the iconic photo of his campaign, we were wrong. This was the iconic photo, and that is the picture of him on stage raising his fist with blood dripping down from his ear, just defiant, looking at the crowd. But actually, I was wrong. The picture that I posted, which was really just a still of that video that I just played, that wasn't even the iconic picture. The iconic picture is this one. This is full screen 1, and this is by AP photographer Evan Vucci. This is the picture that is going around. Just incredible. And actually, we'll keep it up for a little bit. If you watch footage of this happening, the clip that we just played of Trump raising his fist defiantly on stage, you see this photographer. Really incredible. And this takes bravery. This action takes bravery too. Walking in front of the stage to get the perfect shot. You've got the perfectly crystal clear blue sky behind him. You've got the American flag waving. I mean, just the proportions of this picture, if we're just talking about aesthetics, are so perfect. And then President Trump raising his fist, he's in the middle of yelling there. I mean, this picture has got to get the Pulitzer Prize. It is incredible. And then we also have this incredible picture. This is by Doug Mills. And this is while Trump is still talking. This is full screen 2. You actually see the bullet passing Trump if you look quickly. Now, some people are saying that this isn't verified, that we shouldn't believe this picture. I'm not really sure why we shouldn't believe this picture. This is by a verified photographer. I mean, those of you who are photographers know that these photographers at these events are taking pictures over and over again. They're taking continuous pictures to try to get the right shot. I do agree that it's very rare to get a shot like this, but it looks real. It looks like they did. I mean, the photos and the videos from this historic moment are absolutely incredible. And we'll talk about how those photos are being used, how they're being used by the right, how they're even being used by the left-wing media in just a second. And it's so important for us to realize what a spectacular, and I don't even necessarily mean that in a positive way, but just a spectacular, remarkable, historic moment that we're in. And the power of imagery, the power of the story that these pictures tell. And we'll get to that in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about our first sponsor for the day. It's Adele Natural Cosmetics. If you want to support a pro-life, unapologetically Christian cosmetic and skincare company, then you need to be buying your products from Adele Natural Cosmetics. They are totally holistic, a handcrafted, USA-made Christian company. All of their products have all natural ingredients. I love using their skincare. I use mostly their essentials line. I use their essential oil-based cleanser, their essential moisturizer every day, their serums. I also love their Blue Lagoon line. I wear that at night. It's really helped my skin just even its tone and become really bright and moisturized at the ripe old age of 32. I have to care about my skin and its aging. I just want to make sure that I am treating it the best I possibly can. If you go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com and you use promo code Allie, you will get 25% off your first time purchase. That's a great deal. AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, code Allie. So before we get into more about these iconic photos and how the media are using them, I do just want to end this summary of what happened. And I want to include this eyewitness testimony of this ER doctor. I think the most emotional testimony of the day of what happened in the aftermath of this, because as I mentioned at the beginning of the summary, yes, President Trump was the target, but he was not the only person who was shot. There are 2 people as of right now, 2 men in critical condition, and then there is another man who died. We'll talk more about him in a few minutes in another segment of the show. But I just wanted you to hear this ER doctor who happened to be in attendance at this rally describe just the bloody, tragic aftermath after President Trump was shot. Here's shot 1.
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. let me help you. The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter.
My goodness. God bless that ER doctor. You can tell that he is holding it together. I mean, ER doctors see a lot. They see the most gruesome stuff on a daily basis. And you could tell that moment and what he had to do and what he had to see really, really struck him. My goodness. God bless him and his family. So Time Magazine has already used this iconic photograph as their new cover. And you can see it here. Attack on Trump. Former president survives shooting with nation on edge. Absolutely incredible. Tucker Carlson tweeted out just this iconic picture, and it got 634,000 likes. Unbelievable. Donald Trump Jr. also posted it, 520,000 likes on his post of this picture. Matt Walsh posted this picture. He said, impeached, arrested, convicted, shot, still standing. 244,000 likes on X. Just absolutely unbelievable numbers there. And I think really shows the sentiment of the country where most people are. The truth is that this changed things. For whatever reason, as we'll discuss more in a second, this wiped away any shyness and any cowardice people have had about supporting Donald Trump. Whether someone was on the right, they felt like they were reluctantly voting for Donald Trump. Someone was in the middle. They didn't know if they were voting for Donald Trump. I think those who were equivocating or those who were scared, they're feeling really bold and really sure right now. There's something about this that shifted things. Trump responded on his Truth Social a few times. I won't read you the entire post just because they're long, but he said on July 13th, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. So this was before we knew who the shooter was. And he goes on to say that nothing is known now about the shooter. He also said, thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday. So he's speaking on Sunday about what happened Saturday. He says, thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness, which I completely agree. It was God alone. There are a lot of pictures of Trump and videos of him showing him how he turned his head kind of suddenly, which is a very typical Trump mannerism. And because he had turned his head so drastically to make his point, the bullet grazed his ear. If he hadn't turned his head, the bullet would have lodged in his brain and he no doubt would have died. He also said on Truth Social, based on yesterday's terrible events, I was going to delay my trip to Wisconsin and the Republican National Convention by 2 days, but I've just decided that I cannot allow a shooter or potential assassin to force change to scheduling or anything else. Therefore, I will be leaving for Milwaukee as scheduled at 3:30 p.m. today. Thank you. And again, that was yesterday around 1 p.m. And then he also posted to Truth Social yesterday, Unite America. Former First Lady Melania Trump had a very powerful statement. I think we don't really hear from Melania very much, but she said, when I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realized my life and Barron's life were on the brink of devastating change. A monster who recognized my husband as an inhuman political machine attempted to wring out Donald's passion. His laughter, ingenuity, love of music, and inspiration. See, like, this sounds very sincere to me coming from her. It doesn't actually seem like a scripted statement coming from one of her people. The core facets of my husband's life, his human side, were buried below the political machine. Donald, the generous and caring man who I have been with through the best of times and the worst of times. For those of you who cry in support, I thank you. I commend those of you who have reached out beyond the political divide. Thank you for remembering that every single politician is a man or a woman with a loving family. And I actually have seen, like, we'll get to some of the absolutely disgusting reaction from some people on the left, but to be fair, there have absolutely been people on the left that I've seen, just random people in comments and replies, but also some more influential people with bigger platforms who are on the left and in the middle say, this is awful, this is terrible, I don't like Trump, but we should condemn something like this. And that's the kind of thing that we need to hear right now. In fact, we need to hear more people doing that exact same thing. That sets the tone, that sets an example, that cools the temperature. I'm not asking you if you are on the left. I'm not asking you if you're in the middle. If you hate Donald Trump, whatever side you're on, I'm not asking you to like him. I'm not asking you to agree with him. I'm not asking you to vote for him. I'm not asking for you to support him. I'm not even asking for you to feel sympathy for him, although I think that you can. I am simply asking you to search your own heart, to self-reflect a little bit and ask yourself if the absolute vitriol and hatred that either you or those you know feel toward him, it's really, truly justified. Like, is it grounded in truth? Is it grounded in fact? Is it actually necessary? And for you to set the tone, to set the pace, to set an example for those in your life, whether you have a big platform or small, by saying, this is wrong. We can disagree with him. You can take your disagreements to the ballot box. You can be an activist against his policies, whatever it is. But this is wrong. That's the right thing to do in this moment. That's what I would be doing if someone had threatened President Biden's life in this way. Speaking of President Biden, he said, and I will say this was a pretty delayed response. A lot of people were wondering why, for example, President Obama, President Clinton had their statements out before President Biden, but he said this: I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well, and praying for him and his family and for all those who are at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to Secret Service for getting him to safety. Barack Obama said something similar. He said, this is absolutely no place. There is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt. President Clinton also said something similar. RFK Jr., also presidential candidate, he said, now is the time for every American who loves our country to step back from the division, renounce all violence, and unite in prayer for President Trump. Elon Musk, this was interesting. He said that he fully endorses President Trump. We'll put up that tweet. I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery. He had previously said that he was not endorsing any president. He also said last time America had a candidate this tough was Theodore Roosevelt. Now, Elon Musk, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago, is not the only one who is now unapologetically standing up and saying, yeah, I support President Trump. Basically making the point that, okay, if the forces of evil, even though, yes, this was, as far as we know, just a lone gunman, I'm not saying he represents every person on the left, but I think what people are seeing that, okay, we've got lawfare and now we've got warfare. And if the powers that be, including just this kind of random person seemingly on the left, are trying this hard to take him out, then we've got to be bold in our support of him. If they are trying this hard to keep him from winning, we've got to do everything we can to get him to win. I think that's how a lot of people are seeing it, including Elon Musk and including some people who so far have been very hesitant to come out and support Donald Trump. So we'll get to that in a second. Let me tell you about our second sponsor. That's 7 Weeks Coffee. 7 Weeks Coffee is another amazing Christian pro-life company that you need to support. Most of us are drinking coffee on a daily basis. We might as well drink coffee that helps save the lives of babies. For every sale of their coffee. They donate 10% to a pro-life organization. They have donated over $500,000 to pro-life organizations and to life-saving pregnancy centers during the existence of their company. I mean, they have just done amazing work, and that's because of the generosity of you guys. Also, they have amazing coffee. It tastes really good. We drink it in our home. We absolutely love it. Subscribe to their Heartbeat Club. You'll get that box of coffee to your front door every month. You also save 15% on your orders by doing that. You can save even more by using my promo code Allie. Go to 7weekscoffee.com. Use code Allie to save up to 25% on your first order. That's amazing. 7weekscoffee.com, code Allie. I first saw this posted by CNN's Jake Tapper, obviously not a fan of the president. In fact, he is a person who recently said that Trump's comments, now this was in December, I believe, that Jake Tapper recently said that Trump's comments were very similar to Hitler's comments. Like Jake Tapper has said that on CNN, that Trump's comments about immigrants are similar to Adolf Hitler. And I saw him post on X that Axios is reporting that top Democratic lawmakers are saying that, yeah, we realize now that Trump is going to win. After something like this, it's just too tough to get past that imagery. And I said on X, it's too hard to get past the contrast. And I'll put up the tweet that I posted, that the contrast between Trump's iconic photo and then photos like this of President Biden with his mouth agape, clearly confused. I mean, contrasts matter. They mattered when it came to the Kennedy and Nixon debate. You had the sweaty Nixon who looked old, and you had the Kennedy, young, full of vitality, sharp. I mean, it mattered then. It mattered in the debate just a couple weeks ago between Trump and Biden, and it certainly matters now. Apparently, this is a quote from a senior House Democrat, according to Axios. We've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. A pretty incredible admission. Here's someone on X who says he lives in San Francisco. He says people just casually walking around San Francisco with Trump hats. Something has changed. One of you, a listener, a viewer, you messaged me and said that you were in New York City when this happened and you were outside Trump Towers. And after a couple of hours, you saw massive Trump support. People in New York City wearing their MAGA hats with their Trump flags. Pretty incredible. This is from our researcher. She says that she saw a Trump flag flying from a truck inside the D.C. Beltway yesterday, and that this morning about a dozen people with signs and Trump flags on a busy street corner in Fairfax with MAGA hats and honk for Trump signs, a fair amount of honking as they went by, which is pretty crazy for Northern Virginia and D.C. suburbs. So I'm telling you, there has been a shift. The reaction to this has just been absolutely incredible. There have been good statements from politicians, I would say like innocuous, neutral statements from politicians, which maybe is the best that we can hope for when it comes from the left, because as we will get into, the left has been calling Trump Hitler, a unique threat to democracy for years at this point. And so I think the best that we could hope from them would be some kind of like neutral milquetoast condemnation of political violence. But then we have the outright bad and twisted responses from some of his political enemies. We've got Tennessee State Senator London Lamar. She deleted this post on X. She said, while I am praying for former President Trump and hopes he makes a full recovery, the extremism from the MAGA regime has brought us to this moment. Is that right now? Interesting take. Tennessee State Representative Antonio Parkinson. I certainly hope this is not a staged act, but ... There was a lot of that. A lot of people on the left who, even Reid Hoffman, who is a major billionaire mega donor on the left, he reportedly sent out an email after the shooting saying, we shouldn't put it past Trump that this was just basically a big setup PR stunt so that he could look good. Insane. Blue Anon is what that is. Dimitri Melhorn, he is a top advisor to Democratic megadonor Reid Hoffman. He suggested that the attack on Donald Trump might have been staged. He sent out an email apparently saying that. Hoffman had previously joked about making Trump an actual martyr. That's according to the New York Post. How the media covered this initially was also pretty insane. CNN originally reported Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Washington Post, Trump leaves rally after loud noises erupt. USA Today, Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startle former president crowd. NBC, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at rally ahead of the RNC. This one, I think, is the worst. The Sunday Denver Post, front page of the newspaper. Gunman dies in attack. Trump says he was shot in the ear. Newsweek, with the first Republicans pounce headline that I saw, MAGA responds with outrage after Donald Trump injured at Pennsylvania rally. That's the story. That's the hook. That's the lead, that we're outraged that Trump was shot. Strange. Politico, photo of bloody Trump fist pumping immediately spotlighted by his allies. Now, here's a take from Forbes. Forbes is not the only one who did this, by the way. Will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? What? Sean Harper is the author of that brilliant piece. And guess what this person's role is underneath his name on this article about Trump? I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion expert. Of course you are, Sean. Of course you are. Now, here's an incredible development. Morning Joe, the MSNBC show, with Joe and Mika, absolutely hate Donald Trump, unhinged about Donald Trump. I mean, Joe recently said that this is the sharpest and best Joe Biden has ever been. Amazing. Morning Joe was pulled from the air this morning because of the Trump shooting. So this is according to CNN Business. MSNBC will not air Morning Joe today, opting to instead air continued breaking news coverage of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Now, you might think, okay, well, that's just because there's so much breaking news. The Progressive News Network confirmed the decision to preempt its influential and top-rated morning show after a CNN inquiry Sunday evening. The network said the show will resume airing Tuesday. A person familiar with the matter told CNN that the decision was made to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's stable of 24+ guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television that could be used to assail the program and network as a whole. So they know that the guests that they have are so unhinged in their hate for Donald Trump that they're afraid that someone might approve of the assassination attempt. That someone would say, this serves Donald right, or that they would say something so absolutely ridiculous that they would be inspiring more violence, that they said, we're just not going to have the show today. This show, our popular show, is so completely unhinged that we cannot even trust it to do its job, to fulfill its role, which is break news and talk about news. This is the biggest news in decades that we have experienced as a country. And their top news show cannot be trusted to talk about it because they know it is so unhinged. During a performance in Sydney last night, comedian Jack Black's bandmate Kyle Gass made a birthday wish. After Black presented him with a birthday cake and asked him to make a wish, Gass said this: "Don't miss Trump next time." The audience then laughed. Also, People magazine posted a video of the incident, and here are just some of the comments. This person says, "Darn it, 1 inch, ugh. Look at that. He finally got to experience what our kids go through with school shootings." Someone else said, "A few inches more and a better scope, and this country could have gone back to normal." Idiot. he should get over it and move forward. At least that is what he told people in Iowa back in January. Donald, there really is something called karma. So there's just some really, really disturbed, unhinged people out there. Lakota man, he said, mainstream media, today's a somber day. Nah, I'm celebrating today. Grilled hot dogs. Anyone? And then there are several liberal X accounts saying similar things online. Biden made his remarks on Saturday saying, look, I'm going to talk to Donald Trump tonight. There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. There were very brief remarks. They were mostly fine. It was kind of weird how he said this is inappropriate. Like, okay, like it's inappropriate for a 4-year-old to make a potty joke at church. Like, that's inappropriate. I think we can go beyond inappropriate there, but I guess we can give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not at his best when he has to make these kinds of high stakes, extemporaneous remarks. But then he made more remarks on Sunday in the Oval Office. He said several things. Here's top 5.
A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We must not go down this road in America. We've traveled it before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin.
So he really tried to both sides this thing. He tried to compare it to January 6th. It's not the same as January 6th. I'm not saying everything that happened on January 6th was great, but the only person who died on January 6th was one of the protesters, Ashley Babbitt. She was killed by a Capitol police officer there. She was unarmed and she was killed. That was the only person who died on January 6th. And then the FBI involved kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer. Again, the FBI was involved in that. That is a very contentious topic. It is not so straightforward as to say some conservatives tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. And obviously, if that had been the case, that's not something that we should ever condone. But this is not a time for both sidesing. It's just not, because when we look at the history of political violence over the past few years, we do see that it is predominantly on the left. Whether it was Steve Scalise getting shot in the hip, critically injured at a baseball game a few years ago by a Bernie Sanders supporter, or whether it's this assassination attempt, whether it is the BLM Antifa-led violence that absolutely ransacked cities for months on end in 2020. Right now, we are seeing that political violence is predominantly, I'm not saying exclusively, but primarily and predominantly on the left. And I think that we just need to reckon with that. And actually, like if we look at Joe Biden, and we look at some of the things that he has said, we see that he has played a role in this. He has played a role in this rhetoric. So he said over and over again in his Oval Office speech, as he said, battle box, twice, by the way. Battle box, okay? He meant ballot box. He said battle box, not just once, but twice. He almost seemed to have almost said at one point, make America great again. But then he kind of caught himself, which is impressive. And he corrected himself. He also said former Trump instead of former President Trump. That's not the worst mistake that he's made. But he also said, we've got to bring down the temperature. We've got to cool things down. We've got to make things less divided. Look, buddy, I just don't think that that's going to happen. Listen to some of these tweets and how you think an unhinged person would internalize this. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. That's what Joe Biden tweeted on September 1st, 2022. December 20th, 2023, Trump poses many threats to our country, the right to choose, civil rights, voting rights, and America's standing in the world. But the greatest threat he poses is to our democracy. If we lose that, we lose everything. Wow. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation, Joe Biden says on June 28th, 2024, just a few days ago. He's a threat to our freedom. He is a threat to our democracy. He is literally a threat to everything America stands for, says the man who is now calling on everyone to cool it. September 1st, 2022, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country. By the way, this is in the middle of his presidency, before anyone is even campaigning. He's talking about Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. Donald Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. A threat, a threat, a threat. And then do you remember the speech that he gave in front of the blood red wall, flanked by members of our military, talking about the threat of Donald Trump, the threat of extremist MAGA Republicans, a threat to democracy? Also, Biden recently made a comment saying that it is time to put Trump in a bullseye. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. In a July 8th call with donors to his campaign, Biden said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. Yikes. And now, obviously, I don't think that he meant literally in that case. But if we're talking about cooling it, bringing down the temperature, I'm not sure that that's what we want to say. Still pinned to the top of Joe Biden's Instagram page, a graphic that reads, Donald Trump vows to be a dictator on day one. We must stop him. The caption reads, wow, pretty hot temperature, if you ask me. There's more on this. We'll show you what the media have been saying about Donald Trump that might encourage someone like this shooter to think that he will become a hero if he takes Trump out. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor, and that is Good Ranchers. All right, guys, we eat Good Ranchers every night in our home. We love it because it's all American meat. I can trust the quality. I can trust the origin, all from American farms and ranches. We love our Wagyu beef, our Wagyu burgers that we eat all the time are better than organic chicken. All of their cuts of steak, their salmon, their shrimp. I mean, there's such a wide variety, and I just love supporting not only this American industry, but also supporting this company that's family owned, run by Christians that have the same values that you and I have. It's just a win all around. If you go to goodranchers.com, there's no code needed. Just subscribe to unlock up to $150 of savings. Go to goodranchers.com. Okay, before we get into the rest of that, I do want to tell y'all about our Share the Arrows event. I am so excited for those of you who have already signed up. It is September 28th in Dallas, Texas. It is going to be amazing, y'all. I mean, as we are talking about today, we live in very precarious times, in a very scary moment. And that's not me trying to fearmonger. I'm just telling you what you already know is that things feel very fragile. And more than ever, we need to come together with like-minded Christians to make sure we are all on the same page, to make sure that we are sharing each other's arrows, that we are standing up for what is good, right, and true, even when it's scary. We've got Francesca Battistelli singing, leading worship, Grammy Award-winning artist. We've got Rosaria Butterfield, Elisa Childers, Abby Halberstadt, maybe a couple more speakers that haven't been announced yet. Of course, I will be there. If you want a chance to meet me and talk to me, I would love that. There are ticket options for that. Go to sharethearrows.com. Come by yourself. It'll be totally fine if you do. It won't be weird. It won't be awkward. There's going to be thousands of like-minded women there ready to befriend you, or come with your small group, come with your family. I am so excited to meet you guys and see you there. It is going to be the wind beneath your wings that you need in this crazy and exhausting election season. So again, go to sharethearrows.com. Speaking of chaos and craziness, the media have been feverishly comparing Donald Trump, the former president, to Hitler for years now. And we don't have time to even show you all of the examples of that. We have a small sampling of that happening in the past couple of years right here. It's SOT 7.
Let's deal with Hitler, okay?
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that. I mean, that is Mussolini, Hitler-like language.
Trump's affinity for Hitler was always covered under an umbrella of his stupidity.
Echoing Hitler's words.
Listen to this.
Well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Echoing the hateful rhetoric of Adolf Hitler.
It echoes Hitler.
That's the kind of language Hitler used in Mein Kampf.
About vermin and Hitler and Mussolini.
That's a horrifying clip. That's a fascist clip.
Just going full on Hitler.
From Hitler's Germany.
And if you believe, like Donald Trump does, that illegal immigration is wrong, that we should secure our borders, that illegal immigration is a threat to our nation, then you too will be compared to a Nazi or a fascist or even Hitler himself. Remember this clip that we played last Thursday, when we talked about Project 2025, which over the past couple of weeks, the left has been absolutely freaking out about, lying about, okay? Not just saying, oh, wow, I really disagree with this. I do not want this to be implemented. That'd be one thing if you were on the progressive side, but to actually say, they're actually saying this is like Project 2025, which is for the most part a very mainstream Republican document that reiterates a lot of what Republicans have been saying for decades. They're calling it Mein Kampf. And so here is Dean Obeidallah. He was on Joy Reid's show last week, a couple of weeks ago, saying this, SOT 3.5.
Project 2025 is the GOP's version of Mein Kampf. The difference is Mein Kampf is only 700 pages. Project 2025 is 900 pages. It wants to control all of our lives, and this Supreme Court is now putting that into effect through the bench. If Trump wins, we're doing this show in a camp somewhere. You know, that's the reality of the world we live in right now.
And you have Joy Reid there just nodding her head like this is the most reasonable thing that she's ever heard. What was interesting is right after this happened, you know what Joy Reid did on social media? She locked her account. She knows good and well that she has been one of the biggest perpetrators of this kind of awful rhetoric. And then we can look at written media. We can look at, for example, the Washington Post. There was an opinion piece last December by Mike Godwin. It's titled, "Yes, it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Don't let me stop you." The New Republic has been publishing a series since May on what American fascism would look like. The cover is Donald Trump, of course, with the Hitler mustache. And their tweet promoting the series says, it can happen here, and it does. Here's what might become of the country. And remember, Hillary Clinton had tweeted this out. We talked about this when she was talking about Project 2025. The Washington Post published the morning of Trump's attempted assassination. So this was before it happened, but this was the day of, just to show you how they have been ratcheting up the temperature for years. Pro-Trump Christian extremists use scripture to justify violent goals. You'll probably remember, this is still disturbing to me. This was May of 2017, comedian Kathy Griffin, how she did this whole like music video, and then she posted a picture of herself holding what looks like, I mean, I can hardly even look at that. A picture of Donald Trump's severed head, holding what looks like Donald Trump's severed head with blood running down all over his face. Like you'll also remember in Snoop Dogg's 2017 music video for his song Lavender, he shoots President Trump while President Trump is wearing clown makeup. He names the clown Ronald Clump, and he shoots him in this music video. Wow. Katie Fang is an NBC legal analyst. She said on July 11th, 2024, it's a binary choice, a democracy or a dictatorship. Aaron McIntyre, actually, he said this a couple months ago, when the New Republic came out with their new series, saying, oh, we're comparing Trump to Hitler. He said, just so you know, I'm paraphrasing, the left is laying the groundwork to justify the assassination of Trump. He said that back in May. And he is right that. He is absolutely right that this is what this kind of rhetoric leads to. Now, can anyone say for sure that this shooter was directly inspired by those words? No, I can't say that. I don't know his motivations. I don't know his heart. As far as right now, we're hearing very suspiciously, I think that he has like no social media presence. You can't look at this shooter whose name and image we're not going to show. You can't look at this shooter and tell me that this kid doesn't have a Reddit account. Can't. He looks like your average progressive Redditor. I guarantee you he has a Reddit account. He has probably a Tumblr account too. It's really hard to believe that someone this extreme, this radical would not have a social media presence. He apparently doesn't have a manifesto. We're not hearing any of those things from law enforcement, and they may very well be hidden from us for a long time, just like the Covenant Christian shooter. So I don't know his motivations and what or whom he was inspired by, but I think we can at least say that this kind of stuff turns up the temperature. When you hear that someone is Hitler, they are the threat to our country. They are a threat to your existence. They are a threat to our democracy, which we hear from the left is what America is, which of course America is not a pure democracy, but they say that anything that is a threat to our democracy, including so-called MAGA Republicans, that they are a threat that needs to be taken out. They'll even use language like Biden did, that they need to be placed in a bullseye. Like, what do you think an unhinged person is going to do with that kind of idea? Because a lot of people who don't have any purpose, they don't have any meaning, they don't really have any communal or familial ties, they're looking to be remembered. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for heroism. And if they are hearing that this guy is Hitler, they're thinking to themselves, well, what would I have done if I could have to Hitler back in the 1940s? I mean, if someone had assassinated Hitler in the middle of the Holocaust and potentially saved thousands or millions of lives, we would be regarding that person as a hero, right? Like their name would have lived on forever. Like we would have statues of this person. Their name would go down in history as a hero. And so people who are listening to these pundits, to these politicians say that Trump is Hitler, they're thinking, well, this is my moment to go down in history. This is my moment to become a hero. Of course, you wouldn't say that the person who assassinated Hitler was acting inappropriately or out of bounds, right? And here's what calls into question, too, the sincerity of these politicians. You've got Biden, you've got the Clintons, you've got Obama, you've got Kamala Harris, you've got all these pundits giving their very canned answers, their statements, even AOC saying there's no place for political violence. This is terrible. We wish him well. Look, if you really think he's Hitler, then why are you wishing him well? If you really think he is Hitler, responsible for the slaughter of millions of innocent people, then why do you want him to recover quickly? Why are you praying for him? Why are you thinking positive thoughts of him? Why are you giving him a call and telling him, oh, you know what, I hope you heal quickly, which is apparently what Biden did? That doesn't make any sense. So if he's not Hitler, if he is not a unique threat to democracy, like if he is not going to be some fascist dictator that's going to put a bunch of people in concentration camps, then stop saying that. And if he is those things, then don't pretend like you are against violence against him, unless you would have been against violence toward Hitler, and I don't think you would have. So it's all insincere. But you see people like this shooter potentially, and other people in the MSNBC audience, they don't know that the people saying these things probably don't really believe them. They don't realize that they are just prey, that they are just being used as fodder in all of this. They don't know that they're being exploited, that they're being emotionally manipulated. If you've been listening to CNN and MSNBC for the past 8 years, then you are absolutely brainwashed with ideas about the right, Republicans, Christians, Trump, that are literally just not grounded in reality. Think about this dude that tried to kill President Trump. He is 20 years old. He was 20 years old. He's dead now. He was 12 when Trump took office. He might have even been 11 when Trump was running. Think about that. Like how absolutely and quickly radicalized this guy must have been in such a short period of time. Josh Hammer, whom we've had on the show several times, he said left-wing hysteria has now led to the attempted assassination of Steve Scalise, the attempted assassination of Brett Kavanaugh, and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We mentioned Steve Scalise earlier, but we didn't mention Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice. Like, you remember that after the Dobbs decision and after the hysteria that has really surrounded him for years at this point, before he was even on the Supreme Court, how the left has basically said that the Supreme Court has blood on their hands for their various decisions, or at least to the conservative Supreme Court justices. And so a crazy person from California traveled to Brett Kavanaugh's house armed and tried to assassinate him. Thankfully, he was stopped by law enforcement, but he was able to get close to Brett Kavanaugh's house where he lives with his wife and his daughters. Okay, I really don't want to hear about how the right has a violence and extremism problem, okay? The closest we've got to assassinations over the past few years have been because of left-wing crazy people. I do want to take a moment to honor the life that was lost. Now, the other two men that are in critical condition in the hospital, they might also succumb to their injuries. We should pray that that doesn't happen. But one man has already done so. It's Corey Comparator. I want to make sure that I get that correct. He was 50. Local to Pennsylvania. He was a firefighter. He was there with his wife and his two daughters. He dove over them to protect them when gunshots were heard in the crowd. I wonder, too, if that was the case for the other two men that were injured by bullets. Corey's daughter, Allison, posted about her father's death on Facebook page. It was really very touching. I won't read the whole thing because it's on the longer side, but she said he was the best dad a girl could ask for. He could talk and make friends with anyone, which he was doing all day yesterday, and loved every minute of it. He was a man of God, loved Jesus fiercely, and also looked after our church and our members as family. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. And I want nothing more than to cry on him and tell him thank you. Oh my goodness. Please pray for this sweet family, his two daughters and his wife. What was going to be a very exciting, fun day for them was turned into the worst day of their life. There is a GoFundMe account that has already raised almost $4 million. We can link it in the description of this episode if you would like to go check that out. The governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, he's a Democrat, and I thought that he did a really, really good job of honoring the victim of this murder, a resident of his state. This is a great example of putting to the side the partisan divide and just honoring someone's life. Here's SOT 6.
Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president. I asked Corey's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Corey died a hero, that Corey dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally.
Oh, man, just so sad. Again, just pray for his family and also the families of the men who are injured in the hospital. A little more about this assassin. Again, 20 years old. We don't know that much about him, but we do know some. He apparently is the son of a registered Democrat and a libertarian. We don't know very much about his own politics. He donated $15 to the Progressive Turnout Project in 2021, a Democratic-aligned political action committee, but apparently he also recently registered as a Republican, and so there's a lot of confusion there as to why exactly he hated President Trump so much as to want to murder him. In 2022, this is strange. anyone who knows about BlackRock and who BlackRock is, we've talked about them several times on this show. We can link prior episodes about that. In 2022, the shooter was featured in a BlackRock ad. BlackRock ran an ad featuring a teacher from Bethel Park High School, which is in Pennsylvania, in which several unpaid students briefly appeared in the background, including the shooter. This is confirmed by BlackRock. He was described by former classmates as a bullied loner with a penchant for hunting outfits and video games. It's so often one of those types, a bullied loner. Apparently, he tried out for the school's rifle team, but he was turned away because he was so bad at shooting, said Frederick Mock, a current captain of the team who was a few years behind the shooter at the school. I mean, praise God for that he was such a bad shooter, because that is probably part of the reason why President Trump is still alive. He was asked not to come back because of how bad of a shot he was. It was considered like dangerous, said one of the team members. The rifle he used in the attempted assassination was purchased by his father, according to the Wall Street Journal. Investigators do not yet know if he took the gun without his father's permission, but he's an adult. He's 20 years old. Investigators later found explosive devices in the shooter's car, which was parked not far from the grounds where the rally took place. The FBI now is taking over the investigation. A lot of people have a lot of skepticism about that. Pretty good reason to not trust the FBI in many circumstances. They do seem to, in many cases, be foot soldiers of the progressive cause. That's not to say there aren't many solid FBI agents out there, because I think they are. And I hope that the best resources are allocated to this, because this is not just a threat to one person. As we saw at the rally, it is a threat to everyone. It is a threat to everyone who supports the president. It is a threat to everyone who is stands in the wake of progressive violence. Obviously, this is not the first time that there has been an attempted assassination of a president. We've got Abraham Lincoln, even James A. Garfield. Did you know that? I didn't actually know that. William McKinley, he was shot. James Garfield, I will just say, he was shot at a Washington, D.C. train station. He did end up succumbing to his injuries later due to the medical complications. And then William McKinley, he was shot in Buffalo, New York. He died from gangrene caused by the bullet wounds. And then we've got JFK in 1963. And then we've got many who were shot and were not actually killed, like Andrew Jackson, Theodore Roosevelt, FDR, Harry Truman, Gerald Ford, and then Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan in 1981 was shot by John Hinckley Jr. outside the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. He was hit by a ricocheted bullet and suffered a punctured lung, but recovered after surgery. And the statement that he gave when he went back to the White House a couple weeks later, and just to paraphrase, he said, "I owe my life to no one except to God," because it was so clearly God who saved him. And it was his purpose, he said, from there on out to ensure that he was simply living out God's purpose. And really, Ronald Reagan's faith was pretty incredible. You can read his autobiography, where he just had a really amazing understanding of the gospel. And I just pray that for President Trump. I pray that this would be a spiritual awakening for President Trump, that he would owe his life to God, not to himself, not really to anyone else. Although, of course, God might have used people to protect Donald Trump. It really is God who is the author of life, who gives and takes away, who should get all of the credit and all of the praise for saving President Trump in this moment. And I just pray that this would be a moment for Trump, that he would hit his knees in humility and in repentance, and that God would draw his heart toward himself. There are a lot of theories about the dereliction of duty that may have occurred. Some people saying that the Secret Service simply did not do their jobs, that they should have they should have ensured that all of the roofs were secure, that it shouldn't have been possible for the shooter to get so close to get up on this roof and to take aim at President Trump. Many people are saying that there was a lack of security there, that there was a lack of discernment, that there was a lack of caution, that there was a lack of care. Some people are even pointing out in a video where you can see the sniper start to engage with the shooter on another roof, that they hesitated for too long. I think right now there's a lot that we don't know. There are a lot of questions, some justified, maybe some a little bit too hasty. There's going to be a lot that's revealed over the coming days. I am thankful for those who did do their jobs well. There is also a story by the Associated Press that apparently there was a police officer that tried to climb onto the roof to get the shooter to come down, but the shooter pointed his gun at him, and so the police officer retreated. Now, I don't know what the result was of that, what information the police officer then gave to the rest of law enforcement and the Secret Service, or maybe if that interaction was what actually rushed the shooter and made him not aim as well as possibly he could have. And maybe that was the reason why he missed Trump. There's just a lot of questions that we have. Now, a little information about the Secret Service. Secret Service protection is authorized for some current and former high-level officials and their immediate families. It should be given to RFK Jr. as a presidential candidate, but Biden has to authorize that, and he hasn't, which I think is completely wrong. But there are Congress people who have tried to also strip Trump of his Secret Service protection. The Disgraced Former Protectees Act, H.R. 8081, would reform the U.S. Secret Service's protective mission by automatically terminating Secret Service protection for those who have been sentenced to prison following conviction for a federal or state felony. So there are 9 congressmen sponsoring H.R. 8081. We'll put up this graphic. Benny Thompson, Troy Carter, Barbara Lee, Federico Wilson, Yvette Clarke, Bonnie Coleman, Jasmine Crockett, Joyce Beatty, and Stephen Cohen. Okay, that's interesting. I just want to point this out. Like, I'm not even saying that this is pertinent. I just think it's strange considering they are a minority in Congress that all of these people, except for one, are Black Congress people. Is that not a little bit strange? Anyway, Trump just announced this morning on Truth Social that RFK should receive full Secret Service protection. I guess announced is the wrong word. He said that he believes that RFK should get full Secret Service protection immediately. Here is a full screen, speaking of Secret Service, of the shooter's location and the different mapping, so you can just have a visual of how things played out. And then the Secret Service snipers, some people saying they did a great job, some people saying they did a terrible job. And here's another aerial view that kind of gives another perspective of where things were. Again, like, I'll just say from my perspective, I have no idea why the shooter was able to climb that roof. Now, I do think he was probably very difficult to see because you can see like the top of the roof is at this angle. And if he is on the back side of that angle and he's just kind of peeking his head out and peeking his gun over, the snipers from over there are going to have a really difficult time ensuring that what they're seeing is really a human being. I mean, the last thing they want to do is like shoot a civilian on accident. There is a guy saying that he tried to tell law enforcement that there was a guy on top of the roof. Here's Sot 9.
We noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
Yeah. Man, Dan Bongino has been talking about this and how the Secret Service just did not do their jobs well. And Dan Bongino also claims that this is a problem with the leadership at Secret Service. He has pointed out that the woman who runs the Secret Service simply has not done a good job, and that failures in leadership are to blame here. And some people are saying that the Secret Service has DEI policies, which, by the way, they do. they do have DEI policies where they are rewarding people seemingly based on their intersectional identity. I don't know if that's what led to what happened here, but that is absolutely true. Tim Kennedy tweeted, "I'm glad the former president is okay, but the fact that a shooter was able to be within 200 meters with a rifle of a presidential nominee while in elevated position is beyond negligent, if not intentional." Former Army sniper and Congressman Corey Mills went on Fox News saying this was massive negligence to the point of me speculating what was intentional and what wasn't. Then there's another former Army Ranger sniper who is defending the snipers. His name is Kenny D, saying, look, it's a lot easier said than done to make sure that everything is secure and protected. There are a variety of factors that may have gone in to them not shooting right away, them not shooting quickly enough to stop the sniper. I don't know anything about being a sniper, obviously, but I do not know how they did not secure the entire area, especially the roofs. Like that's a thought that I would have just as a common person. I would think, oh, we should make sure that no one can get on the roof, because that would be one of the only ways that someone would be able to target President Trump. People are also noting the female Secret Service agents and how frazzled they seemed when they were protecting President Trump. I don't have a lot to compare this to. And so maybe they were acting like other Secret Service agents do. I'll play you the clip and you can decide. Here's SOT 10. I mean, they do indeed look very frazzled that one lady can't get her gun into her holster. Now, again, maybe that's normal. Maybe that's what Secret Service agents always look like when they are in this kind of situation. If so, I think that's troubling in and of itself. A lot of people saying women shouldn't be Secret Service agents. I don't want to minimize the sacrifice that women in combat positions or Secret Service agents or police officers make, because they have saved lives. They do protect people. And I'm very thankful for that. Most men and most women would not take on that kind of position where their life is on the line. And so I don't want to pretend like that doesn't matter and isn't heroic. But these kinds of positions that require agility, that require strength, that require just body mass, I do think should be reserved for men. Even if you are the bravest woman, the toughest woman that has ever existed. Like, I commend you for that. I think that's awesome. The fact of the matter is, you are still 5'3", $140. Okay? And Donald Trump is like 240 pounds and 6'3". That means that your body, as strong and fit as you might be, as brave as you might be in your spirit, your body cannot cover him the way that he needs to be covered. Like, you are allowing for holes, for vulnerability that should not be there. I just don't think that women physically were made for these kinds of roles. And like, look, I'm a girl's girl. I think women are awesome. There are a lot of roles that women can do really well. And I will cheer you on. I don't think these roles that require a certain level of physical strength and size should employ women. I simply don't. And yet the Secret Service says that they want to be 30% female by 2030. What kind of goal is that? Your goal as the Secret Service should be simply to protect, to serve, to be as lethal as possible. You can't be as lethal as possible if you are 30% female, period. Same thing with combat positions for the military. You can say that that's misogynistic, but I actually think it was Michael Knowles who said it's actually misogynistic to require women to take a bullet for a man. And I happen to agree with that. Okay. What has the response been from evangelicals? I'll just go through this quickly, and then I promise we'll get to the prophecy part, and then we will end this. Russell Moore did condemn in general political violence, not progressive political violence, but just political violence in general. Now, he is also one who has defended the movement of Black Lives Matter, as well as many other evangelicals who have done the same. There were many Christians, and I won't name all of their names, who were so quick to post a black square, to raise their fist with Black Lives Matter, to even say ridiculous things like riots are the voice of the unheard, to either ignore or in some cases justify the violence that was happening on the streets in the name of, but completely disconnected from, the death of George Floyd. And they are the ones who will post Micah 6:8 in their bio, and they will say that part of sanctification is being some kind of social justice activist, that's not political, that's just loving your neighbor. Of course, I disagree with them on the definition of justice because it's not biblical. I completely disagreed with how they handled the death of George Floyd and how they mishandled scripture when it comes to justice and partiality. But really what gets me here is that they were so quick, without hesitation, without facts, without knowing the motivations of what happened with George Floyd or any other police killing, that many of them are very hesitant to say anything today. They haven't said anything about President Trump. They don't say anything when it comes to the overturning of Roe v. Wade or abortion because they don't want to get political. No, the truth is they want to get political when it is a progressive cause, but not when it's a cause that can be deemed conservative. And they'll say, oh, I'm not responsible for talking about the news. I'm not responsible for talking about politics. I would say that's true. I don't think everyone is responsible to talk about every news story or every political event. I don't talk about every political event or political issue or news story, and that's part of my job. So I don't think that every influencer and every Bible study leader and every pastor has to talk specifically about everything that happens. I'm just saying, don't allow your outrage and your public voice to be dictated by what progressives say that you should be mad or sad about. Okay? Like, show some objectivity there. Show some impartiality there. Like, this is a big one. This is a big one. You don't have to talk about everything, but now would be a good time to talk about it. To talk about something, right? The former president was almost assassinated. This would be a good time for you to say, you know what, this is not a political issue. This is an Imago Dei issue. This is a justice issue. This is a truth issue. And as a minister of the gospel, as an ambassador of peace and order, I think it would be really good of you, even those of you who have kind of been deluded a little bit by your idolatrous hatred of Trump, to say this is too far. This is not good. And maybe some of you who have been, for the past several years, been calling him a white supremacist and all of his supporters racist, maybe you should take some time to self-reflect. I don't know. Hopefully your pastor said something on Sunday about this. I don't think, again, pastors are responsible to say something about everything that goes on in the world. I don't. They should be preaching the gospel. They should be going verse by verse through the Bible and handling the word of God rightly. But they shouldn't be afraid to speak in to what goes on, especially a big issue like this. They should have been able to muster the courage at the very least to say, let's pray for Trump. Let's pray for our country, right? They should at least have the courage to say that. And if they don't, and if you've been wondering if they've got their left leanings, their social justice leanings, or if they're so nuanced that they actually just preach a lot of confusion and nothingness about these issues that matter, that are really biblical issues before they're political or cultural issues, then I don't know. I would probably seek a different church. I mean, we're entering into even scarier times. It seems like we are lurching even further towards the precipice, whatever that is. I don't even know exactly what that looks like, but you want a shepherd that is willing to take on the wolves, right? So you want a pastor that is willing to speak up while they are still free to speak up. If they are too afraid to speak up when they're free to speak up, you can bet your bottom dollar when free speech, when freedom of religion is really on the line, is really being threatened, that they won't have the courage then. You want a shepherd that is going to walk through the fire for their flock, right? And so if you are sensing cowardice from your pastor, personally, I think that it's time to get out. There were a lot of pastors that did have a lot of good responses, and I'm thankful for that. I am so thankful for the pastors with courage. Thank you so much. Keep going. Let's share the arrows with those pastors and encourage them as much as we possibly can. Gosh, there's just so much I could say. I just want to end this talking about prophecy. Should we be listening to prophecies? There's a prophecy going around that claims to have predicted exactly what happened over the weekend to President Trump, and I'll give you my thoughts on that in just a second. Let me tell you about our last sponsor for the day. It's Birch Gold. I don't have to tell you that things are crazy. Things are chaotic. We want to make sure that our savings are taken care of. That's why Birch Gold exists. For more than 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting them to an IRA or 401k, or converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. To learn more, all you got to do is text the word Allie to 989898 and claim your free no more obligation info kit on gold. I must have been saying, they must have not liked the 989898 because they have changed it in my script for me. That's Allie to the number 989898. All right. There's this video going around. We don't have time to play it all. It was from a few months ago. 3 professing prophets. They describe the vision that God gave them. This one man says that God gave him a vision that a bullet will be lodged at Trump in an attempted assassination, that it will blow his eardrum, and that Trump will hit his knees and he will be following hard after the Lord. And there were many other parts of this prophetic vision of a revival, spiritual awakening, and all of that stuff. I saw a lot of people that I follow and like and share this because it sounds similar to what happened over the weekend, but that doesn't cut it for a prophet of God. A true prophet of God who received a vision from God, which I will always have the utmost skepticism about, and you should too, will be right. They will be 100% right. Now, they will not have the mind of God. They will see in part. They will not know everything that God knows. They will not be omniscient just because they are a prophet from God, but they will be right. They will be 100% right. What they say, if it is truly a prophecy from God, a foretelling prophecy from God, so they are seeing the future, and they're saying it's a vision from God, they will be 100% correct. They won't say something that is similar to like something that happened. I don't think that Trump blew his eardrum. I didn't hear anything about that. Did he really drop to his knees and start worshiping God? I mean, I guess this person could say that was a metaphorical part of the vision. I'm kind of unclear on that. Look, in these chaotic and crazy times, there are always going to be people who will capitalize on your fear to tell you that God has given them some kind of vision. There's a forthtelling prophet and there's a foretelling prophet. The foretelling prophet sees the future. And again, if they are from God, they are going to be 100% right. I don't know anyone that fits the bill on that right now. And then there's the forthtelling prophet, someone who is telling the truth, who God has given the gift of telling the truth based on God's word. Look, we already have divine revelation in Scripture. Those who are adding to that by saying something that cannot be supported by Scripture and is not even fully supported by reality should be disregarded. Yes, they should. Just be careful, because I understand the allure of this. Look, I almost got sucked into a prophecy that I saw on Facebook back in 2020. I mean, talk about a chaotic and crazy time when all of us were feeling so vulnerable. We couldn't trust the media. We couldn't trust politicians. We couldn't believe our own eyes and ears. We had to deny our common sense when it came to masks and all of that stuff that they were telling us. Information was changing all the time. So many pastors didn't have the courage to speak up. Many people were not gathering with the church. And so that community that helps us stay reasonable and grounded in truth and in our faith dissipated in a lot of ways. So many people were vulnerable. I remember seeing this prophet, or so-called prophet, say, oh, I saw this vision for something that's going to happen in September. There's going to be yellow. There's going to be red. There's going to be China. There's going to be Russia. And they're going to advance their troops. And for a second, y'all, I am always very skeptical of over-spiritualization and things like that. I was like, that does not seem that far off. That actually seems like something could happen. I think all of us felt like very dark during that time, and I almost believed it, but it didn't happen. I'm glad I didn't latch on to it. And you have to be careful too. Arm yourself with the full armor of God. Read Ephesians 6. You want to know what God's up to? Read the Bible. He'll tell you what he's up to. What he tells us is that God's eternal plan of redemption is going off without a hitch. He is not surprised by what happened over the weekend. He's not thrown off. He's not taken aback. He's not wondering, oh my goodness, how did we get here? I did not see that coming. God is completely sovereign. Nothing thwarts his will. Job 42:2. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. He is sitting on his throne, Psalm 2, and he will avenge his people, Psalm 37. Read Psalm 27, read Psalm 25. I mean, there's so many passages that you can read. Read Romans 8. God's got it. He's got it. His victory is sure. He's got you in the palm of his hand. You are immortal until God calls you home. His gospel is true. His way is sure. He is faithful. This is our Father's world, and it always will be. And one day he's coming back, and he will rule in perfect peace and perfect victory forever and ever, and we won't have to worry about anything. Until that day, your responsibility is this: do the next right thing in faith with excellence and for the glory of God. That is your responsibility in big and small ways, and personal and political ways, and private and public ways. There's a lot more that we can say about all of this. I just wanted to end on that note. You want to know what God is up to? You want to know the real truth? Read the Bible. Don't listen to these goofy people on YouTube. Like, be so for real right now, okay? Like, stop being goofy. The right stop being goofy challenge, impossible, it seems like, okay? Don't be goofy. Be godly. Go to the word of God and stay reasonable and sane in what is true. All right, we'll be back here tomorrow.